Did you notice 5 minutes ago?
I noticed just now. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Save Continue podcast.
Take two.
Take two. My name is Ryan Robinson. With me, as always, is Tom Shelby.
Aye.
Shanae is not with us this week. She has been on a bender for the last 2 weeks, so she finds it really hard to actually be on the show. So we're just going to do real quick. We're going to talk about what we've been playing, because that's what Shanae would do. Rest in peace, Shanae. You know, you live on in our hearts. So I'm not going to pretend that we didn't already just do this a second ago. I'm not going to try to, because that's just, I'm all about full transparency here. Okay. So just a quick rundown. I've been playing Stellaris, and I played Last Blade 2 with Tom today. You know, and I talked about basically getting a little bit better at that game as far as move inputs.
A little bit better. Definitely a lot better, dude. Dude, look at the last several times. Well, I guess we've only played a few times, but the last couple of times that we played that game, you got raked over the coals. This time you kept up quite a bit.
Yeah, well, man, it's a weird thing, right? Because I think that, and I don't think that Last Blade is unique in this as far as SNK games go. But in my experience, SNK games tend to favor the run over the dash, the forward run as opposed to the forward dash. And coming from playing Street Fighter primarily, that's what I have, and the very few characters have a run in that game.
Yeah.
So it's kind of getting my movement down in Last Blade 2, or I guess any SNK game has been kind of a challenge for me. So that's kind of that, and that's kept me like I would dash, and then I have to have the recovery animation of when I stop, and then that opens me up.
Yeah.
But I've been trying to do that less, because I know that I'm getting my mind around the fact that that's not how movement in that game works.
What's that? Just Rushdown in general?
Well, no, not just Rushdown in general, but I think where I'm in Street Fighter is that a large part of my movement strategy is in the employment of forward dashes, and having to do without that in these SNK fighting games that we had been playing has been it's been mentally kind of a challenge for me. But I think that also the good thing about playing, well, I was going to say the good thing about playing Last Blade 2 is it's reduced the frequency at which I jump in, but that is a flat out lie. Because I jump in a lot in that game. But
I think jumping in the Last Blade 2 is safer than it is in Street Fighter.
Yeah, because you have a way to defend yourself up there, right?
Yeah.
And you might not always get it, right? But you could, if you pull it off, then you escape getting hit. And then,
but yeah, if you watch players like Vic Viper or Dindo playing Last Blade 2, they're jumping all over the place.
Yeah.
It's just a different game.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and then and my favorite moment in any fighting game is when you find that character that clicks with you.
Yeah.
And it's ironic in this case because I can't remember what her name is. But
Bet you'd remember if it was a man.
Oh, sure.
I'm just playing.
Sure. Actually, it's funny because I don't actually remember any of the men's names in that game either.
I know the names of the characters I play.
Yeah.
But I haven't spent enough time with Last Blade 2. I'm not intimate with it like I am with fucking Street Fighter.
Yeah. The only character whose name I remember in that game is Setsuna.
Yeah.
But
Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know if it was just me or if it the game started to seem to move faster. It felt like it was moving faster. As I felt more confident in what I was doing, the game felt like it was moving faster.
I mean, I think that was probably just you. It could also be, what else it could be is that like you started off power and you eventually went to speed, and I don't know if speed changes movement speed. I don't think it does, but it might.
Yeah. Well, then, like, it's funny because, like, I had been doing speed before because I wanted those chain combos, but then I started
Yeah,
feeling more comfortable with power, and now I actually prefer it.
yeah.
Um, uh,
Most people play power,
yeah.
but yeah, I
Um,
think also because I was changing up who I was playing frequently, which I don't typically do.
yeah.
I typically play Biki, who just generally moves slower,
Yeah.
you know. But
Um, and then also, as I mentioned during that botched recording, that I was playing a game called Ember, which is essentially, um, if the core conceit of the game is that if the firefighting was part of the gig economy and you could outsource firefighting in the same way that you outsource delivery services, uh, and your character has an app on their phone that they use to find fires locally, and you go try to fight fires and save people, and then you get paid money for it. Um,
sure,
as I mentioned to you before, Tom, um, there is no subtlety in the satire that game is looking to evoke. It is a very on the nose sort of thing.
yeah,
I don't think it's making a broader statement, honestly. I think it's just basically saying, you know, what if Uber had firefighters and that's it? Uh, and it's not really.
nah. A game like that, they must be trying to say something.
I think that they're trying to say like something about how people should be able to get paid more, and there should be a universal basic income and all that, but it doesn't actually effectively convey that message at
Yeah,
all. Because there's not a story to the game, right? It's kind of a very it's a kind of a very freeform thing.
sure.
And I also have been playing Stellaris a lot. It's kind of been our come home from work and sit down on the couch and play Stellaris until bedtime. Um,
Yeah,
and I mean, it's a. I was saying before that like I don't know the difference, and maybe I don't know enough about Stellaris to say, but I don't know the difference between the PC version and the console version aside from the obvious input methods.
right.
I
Well,
just
on content, right.
yeah, and like
I think that could be the big thing that your friends are talking about is content, because like an expansion can change a lot,
yeah,
you
it's
know.
certainly and I mean I haven't played I haven't played any I've only played the base game on PC. Um, the expansions they add they add you know different races and civilizations to the game, but the gameplay it stays the same.
Yeah.
And but it's a good time. I feel like I'm pretty bad at it, but Kaylee's gotten really good at it. And that's
I think like it's one of those games where like you got to have the brain for that, you know.
yeah, and I just don't think that I do honestly,
Yeah.
because I think that there is definitely a way to play it where like because one of the races or species you can select is a rogue AI that their whole thing is basically Skynet. They're just looking to wipe out all organic life in the galaxy. And
Yeah.
so you have no you don't get to be diplomatic with any other civilization. You don't get to trade or anything like that. Anytime you meet another civilization, like your whole objective is to destroy them, right? There's
That's
definitely
the class to play.
sure, and there's like there so you could definitely play the game that way, right? But I think that conceptually the more interesting way to play that game is like with the politics involved and like diplomacy and all
Sure.
that stuff. Like I feel like that is probably the more interesting way to play that game. That said, I've tried that way and I'm bad at it. And I do enjoy the game quite a bit. It's just I just don't think that I'm any good at it.
Yeah.
Um,
I've
and
been there.
yeah, so and then I have I didn't mention this before, but like the new uh, two things. My monthly humble uh, choice bundle is unlocked, so I'm looking to see what's in there that I could get into. Um, because I know that they got Jurassic Park Evolution in there, which I've heard good things about.
I don't know. I mean, I've heard good things about it as well, but I've heard like those in the know
Yeah,
say that Operation Genesis was a lot better.
yeah,
I've
um,
never played either,
yeah. So
so
I guess that works in my favor because then if
I
I,
liked like Zoo Tycoon back in the day,
yeah,
and I imagine it's pretty similar.
yeah. So I mean, I'm, I'm gonna check it out. And then the PS Plus games just came out this today actually. Was it Call of Duty World War II and Battlefront 2? So
Oh, interesting.
uh,
I did not know that.
yeah, so we'll see. Um, maybe both those games are rad. I don't know.
I mean, we're going to talk about multiplayer today, and one of my games is a Call of Duty game.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So yeah, that's basically it. That's kind of all I've been up to. Nothing too crazy. What about you, Tom?
yeah, so all I really talked about before we went off the air was Capcom versus SNK2. It's keeping me from playing newer games that I have.
Yeah.
It's all I want to play.
How old is that game?
And well, it came out I think in 2001, right?
Okay.
That's the number in the title.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it's just I don't know. I said this before. Like it's allows for more creativity than probably any fighting game that I've played. And
So are you like finding yourself that you're like creating your own combos?
well, I mean, it's got a groove, which is similar to Vism in Alpha 3,
Right.
which that's what it is. It's custom combo, right? You can cancel anything into anything just about.
Yeah.
That's not the only groove I've been playing, but that groove is one that I favor for sure. Uh, it's interesting to be able to just like go into training mode and you hit both heavies to activate that, right?
Yeah.
Well, in training mode, you've got infinite fucking meter. So you're just sitting there doing this combo that's like hundreds of hits.
Yeah.
And it's very, very entertaining.
So I've been actually thinking about how like I need to like when I do training in Street Fighter, like by default it gives you infinite V trigger, it gives you infinite the other thing.
Yeah.
And like that's a bad way to train, I think, because then like I'm not used to like then I go into an actual fight and I'm just like, oh shit, I don't have my meter, so
Yeah, I agree and disagree. I think it really just depends on what it is you're training to do.
yeah.
If you're training to cancel into super, then yeah, why would you want to have to re-earn it every time you want to retry that?
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying though.
Because I think that doing that has conditioned me to always do the EX version of every move. And I think,
yeah.
and so like I don't want to do that. So
Yeah, see, and like a lot, not all, but a lot of these older games don't have EX versions.
Yeah.
So it's not a problem.
sure. So yeah, video games are great. Fighting games are the best. And so today, Tom and I are going to talk to y'all about our favorite online multiplayer that we've experienced in games that we've played. And this is not going to be exclusive to fighting games. It's basically any online multiplayer that we've experienced. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to hearing what you've enjoyed since online multiplayer became a thing, Tom.
Well, I've got a list here, and I guess I want to clarify one thing with you before
Sure.
we start. Is like I've got some like what are we saying is online multiplayer? Because I've got some games that are like leaderboard games. I've got
So
some games that are like straight up a shit ton of people, and some games that are one-on-one like fighting games.
yeah, so I mean that's basically my when I thought of it, it was the idea I had was any game that you play online actively with other people, but
Okay.
here's the thing is it's our show, we can we can define it however we want. So if you got stuff on there that's just leaderboard shit, then I want to hear about it.
All right. Well, I'm gonna start with that then because it's just two of them.
Okay.
I'll make it pretty quick. Geometry Wars 2 and Tetris Effect. Uh, it what I love so much about those games is like with both of them, and obviously Geometry Wars 2 was years ago, right?
Right.
Tetris Effect was not that long ago. I'd set a score and I'd go to work and I'd come home and a friend or a family member would have beat that score. And I'll sit there until I beat their score, you know?
Yeah.
And I come back the next day and rinse and repeat. And like, it's so fun because like, I know that leaderboards are there to mimic the experience of high score at an arcade or
Right.
whatever, right? But like, it feels more like Words with Friends or like chess by mail.
So like
you know?
asynchronous multiplayer.
Yeah. And yeah, so I just had a lot of fun with that stuff. So that's my first thing and my only thing involving leaderboards.
Okay. Yeah, honestly, dude, like there's something about like setting that score that you're like there's no way. There's no way you're going to top this score. And then like
and then they do.
But it's fun because like you leave the game and like maybe you can't touch the game again for like another 6 or 8 hours. And then like the anticipation of like you're loading up the game and like looking to see if someone else has topped it, and it's fun. That's like that kind of competition is like really fun, and I think that people have like extrapolated that to like the meta of like the trophy score.
Yeah, for sure. But like even like, dude, even with Tetris Effect, man, when that game, the first couple of weeks of that game, I had friends like people that we both know messaging me being like, dude, I saw your fucking score on there. Like, yeah you did, like, it feels good.
It
feels good.
And I think that like, and you were talking about like when it like it's kind of just like harkening back to like the old like arcade days, and like it's like because I think I asked you like recently if you, when you're playing a game, if you still put your initials in there. And like there's like
well, no, what it was, you were telling me, I don't remember what game you were talking about, but you were talking about a game
Streets of Rage
on a console that couldn't save.
Yeah.
That you were putting your initials on.
Yeah. So I would beat Streets of Rage 2 every weekend and put my initials back in there every weekend, and I was always the only person doing it because I was the only one playing the game.
Would you try to leave your console on after you did that? Or did you just not give a fuck?
Well, because we'll see. I got to the point where like the first time I did it, I looked at it with a sense of pride, like look at me, I'm in first place.
Yeah. Against the computer.
Against the computer, with like an absurdly low score, like a score that no one would have if they actually finished the game.
Right.
But so after a while, I kind of got over it. But yeah, I think that that's multiplayer in itself. So I guess I'll go next. So I actually have Resident Evil Outbreak.
I never actually played those games.
So
I know how they work and all that. But,
yeah. So like that game is so I think that game came out I think that was like 2004, 2005, I think.
Okay.
And it was such a flawed but great time. And only flawed in the way that you couldn't actually speak to anyone like while you guys were in the session together. Like you had the pre-game lobby where you guys can like say stuff to each other. But Capcom always had a weird thing about like they had like a weirdly low character limit on their chats. It's weird. But like actually being in the game was like it was really cool, like because there was a satisfaction that came from like we can't talk to each other and we have to rely on these context specific pre-recorded character voice cues to like communicate what we're trying to do. And the game was pretty good about like because like when you play the game like on the right stick, it like you compress it in one of 4 directions, and each direction would determine what your character said. And if there's a context that was specific to that specific response, you could communicate certain things to other people in your group.
Right.
So there was like a really good like satisfaction like when like all four people were somehow effectively communicating that way and
Yeah,
communicating
yeah.
like intent like of what you wanted to do, like I need you to do this thing and this is how I'm going to tell you that I need you to do this thing so I can do that thing. And
You know what? I'm actually really glad you brought that up. What was the Titanfall fucking battle royale?
Apex.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like they got a lot of praise for the nonverbal
Oh
communication
yeah,
methods that they
the
put into
pings.
that game. And I know games have had that shit forever. Obviously Outbreak is old as shit, but
Yeah.
like I feel like not a lot of games do a good enough job of that. And like that's cool to hear about Outbreak.
Yeah, and it's especially good for games where like because I think that most people they're not talking to strangers on the mic. Every once in a while that'll happen, but it's usually not the case, right? But at the same
Right.
time, while you're not talking to the other team members on the mic, you also like you want to win too, right? So, and like it or not, like effective communication in some capacity is like a core component of those games. Uh, so being able to effectively communicate with your team is like a huge deal. And I wouldn't say that most times the communication in Outbreak was particularly effective, but it was good when you had somebody who had other people in your group who understood what you were trying to do and to accomplish that goal. The flip side of that is that there was also like a lot of tension in that game because everybody in your group is infected
Yeah.
with I don't remember which virus it is. I don't know if it's the T or the G or the M or the V or whatever.
It's the progenitor virus, dumbass.
Oh yeah, sure. That's Dr. Red Foreman. Uh,
Yeah.
but like so like if one of your team members dies, they come back as a zombie and can attack the other members of the group. And I
Yeah.
thought that was just such a cool mechanic. Um, but the
And
game.
there's a newer game that's doing that. I can't remember what it is.
So I know that there's a because I know that there's a new Resident Evil multiplayer game, and I'm not sure if it works that same
Well, you're
way.
talking about Resistance, the one
Yeah.
that shipped with. Yeah, no, that's different.
Okay. Um, but yeah, so that I feel like Resident Evil Outbreak was like a really good use of like a really fun way like to make Resident Evil like multiplayer.
Yeah.
And I actually would have I actually did I played that game all the way up until they took the servers offline.
Only Resident Evil multiplayer I ever got into was Mercenaries,
Yeah,
but
it's a good game.
I played like I always get Operation Raccoon City and what was the other one?
6 or Umbrella Chronicles
Umbrella. Yeah, I always
or
get those
Umbrella
two
Core.
mixed
I don't
up.
remember what it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
One of the games that you were playing had you playing as an umbrella dude, and he had like a bite guard on his forearm, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
He had a bite, like you had the bite guard, so you can like the zombie will bite into it, and you can use a zombie as a shield.
Um. Okay, so I'm just gonna go through my lump of fighting games here.
Sure.
I've got on here Third Strike Online, um, Darkstalkers Resurrection, Last Blade 2, and Garo Mark of the Wolves. I think it's interesting, right? Especially with Vampire Savior and Third Strike, because these are all old games. They're all old, right?
Yeah.
But two of the versions of these games are current gen, and two of the versions of these games are, if not 10 years old already, damn near it. You
Right.
know. Um, so I mean, those would be Street Fighter and Darkstalkers, and like the versions of those games on last gen consoles. The online on all of them are fantastic. They all use rollback. I believe they all use a version of DGPO.
Right.
So they run extremely well. I bring them up because obviously we like playing fighting games online, but it sucks when I think that like these old games, especially these two that were re-released damn near a decade ago, just have such a better online experience than these newer games we're getting.
Yeah.
And I think they deserve praise for that. And then especially like basically everything that Capcom was putting out on 360 and PS3 when it comes to fighting games, as far as their re-releases go. So they did Darkstalkers Resurrection, they did Third Strike Online, they did the Marvel Origins collection, they did Marvel vs. Capcom 2, right? Uh, all those versions of those games ran so well, had nice little additions as far as like kind of like what we were talking about on the fighting game episode about like accolades being called out to you.
Yeah.
Like on the side of the screen on all of those games, it's like, hey, you did this many EX moves, you did this many rolls, you did this many whatever air blocks, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and like, yeah, it's just such a better package than anything that's out today. They all run better than anything that's out today, and I think that's a large part of the reason why you can still get on Darkstalkers Resurrection or Third Strike Online and find a game.
Yeah.
You know, yeah,
Um,
I just think there's something to be said for that.
yeah, and it's important, right? Because like, I mean, fighting games don't come out like all the time, right? Like
You know,
you're not going to get a new entry in your favorite franchise every single year.
right, right,
So
right.
like having that kind of longevity in the game, like having a way to ensure that people are going to keep enjoying playing the game for an extended period of time while they wait for the next game. I mean, that's important, especially like now when we kind of can't, for the most part, like unless you happen to live with the fighting game fan, like, most of us aren't able to play fighting games locally with each other. So,
Right, and like other versions have come out. Right, there's a newer version, a current gen version of Third Strike, and it's not good.
yeah.
Like I don't know.
Wait, is that on the Switch?
It is on the Switch. It's on the PlayStation. It's on
What?
on everything. Yeah,
What?
yeah.
I didn't. What's bad about it? Because you're gonna have to talk me out of buying it real quick. Because
No, I mean I think you should buy it if you love Third Strike or it's the 30th anniversary collection.
oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. I
What's
remember.
bad about those, one is that they are arcade perfect, is what they claim, right? But
Yeah.
you can't pick a level, which I guess that's true to the arcade. What's not true to the arcade is you are stuck on the first level you get.
Mm,
What is also not true to the arcade is like there's no windscreens or anything like that.
whack.
You just, and the online experience itself is not great.
Mm. I think I was with you when you bought that actually.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think like if you're just looking to play some of those old Street Fighter games
yeah.
in the easiest way possible, they're not terrible. You can still have fun with your friends playing those games.
Yeah. But if you're
But
looking to be serious online, it's probably not it.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So that's my fighting games.
right on. So I put. Oh, so Killzone Shadowfall. Um, so I don't know if you ever got to play that game online.
Nope.
But that game did some.
I don't think so.
It did. I feel like it did some really cool shit online. Um, the major problem, honestly, with that game's online is it has the problem with the delay between when you shoot at a guy and when you hit him.
Really? Killzone did that?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And it was like, and it wasn't. It was never to the point where I didn't have fun playing it,
Yeah.
but it was definitely to the point to where you noticed.
The only reason I say that's crazy is because most of the multiplayer games that have that issue are things like The Division or like Destiny, where it's like the shared world experience, not so much like just these online focused multiplayers.
Yeah, and it's weird. And I don't know if it was just because it was a launch title and Gorilla was still trying to figure out like the infrastructure or whatever.
No, they had that shit day one, man.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
That
that's
said,
crazy.
that game is a fucking blast if you can get your friends together. And but really what stands out to me about that game is that you'll have to forgive me because I can't remember if it's a specific multiplayer mode or if this was just standard. But there you could play the game. It could start out as one game mode, and it goes through different game modes as you're going through the match. So on one hand, it could be like, all right, so we got to kill this many guys, right?
Okay.
And then the next match is like, okay, now we got to go take control of this control point. And then the next thing is like, okay, now we got to go do this thing. And it was cool because like it kept you doing different things and moving around the map and kind of adjusting your teamwork and coordinating differently. And
That's interesting.
and it's really cool because I think that even now, and I don't play multiplayer shooters like the way I used to before, so I can't speak, uh, empirically
Authoritatively.
authoritatively to this. But like most of the time when you're playing a shooter, like you're in this mode, and that's the mode you're playing until the match is over.
Right.
Which
You
is
know what's interesting about Killzone doing that is like Killzone was a launch game,
yeah,
so I imagine like breaking it up in that way is a good way to be like, and I don't, like I said, I've never played it, so I don't know if that's just how the game played, or like you said, there's different modes or whatever.
yeah,
But like, it's a good way to have a launch day competitive shooter with fuller lobbies.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Because there's not a lot of them out in the wild. You want full lobbies, you want full games, and
yeah.
when you give the players the opportunity to choose between 5 different modes, you're segmenting those groups. So that's really interesting.
And it's a shame though because I honestly do think that Shadowfall was a pretty well made game.
Yeah.
The only thing about it is that like it was a launch title and I bring that up because like it wasn't long before other shooters who were maybe doing different things a bit better than Killzone was doing, like mechanically, came out.
Right.
Because
Call of Duty and Battlefield were on there almost right away.
yeah, like I think the console launched with Ghosts, which
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people have a lot of bad shit to say about Ghosts. I don't know enough about Call of Duty to know
I
why
had
Ghosts is
fun
bad.
with
So I don't know, but like the PlayStation immediately got a current gen port of Battlefield 4.
it. Right. Well, that was real bad though, apparently.
Yeah, there were some problems, but what I'm saying is like more recognizable, well, not more recognizable, but like bigger
Games
franchises.
that were absolutely going to sell better.
Yeah.
Were
Like
there,
we're
yeah.
launching around the same time as this game, which
Yeah.
it sucks because I think that Killzone as a franchise is very cool, and I'd like to see another one at some point, but
I also think you have a problem with that when like a lot of people who were changing over from Xbox 360 at that point
right, like me,
had never played the other kill zones, and they're like, well, do I need to play the 4 that came before this one?
yeah,
I don't know.
and it turns out you
Which
don't.
is obviously why they called it Shadowfall, but
Yeah. But yeah, it's a really cool game, and I know that, and that's funny because I very recently I see people posting about like how much they miss playing that game, and like they have their videos. Like I actually found like I have a video that I posted on Facebook like back like when was it 7 years ago, when the console came out, and I was like, man, Shadowfall was a pretty great game.
God, was it that long ago?
Yeah, it's November 2013. So
Well, you can go play it still, right?
yeah, I'll just play it by myself.
Yeah.
But what do you got, Tom?
Well, as far as shooters go, I'm just going to run through Splatoon real quick because we talked about it recently.
Right.
I think Splatoon 2 is one of the most original shooters in years.
Sure.
Splatoon in general, and I think it's cool that they're not concerned with what people think is the best way to control a shooter on consoles.
Right.
They've come up with the best way, and others just haven't accepted that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
So there's that. Also, awesome community. Even with everything that's going on in the world right now, the Splatoon 2 community stays extremely positive.
Yeah.
Lots of Black Lives Matter on there.
Yeah.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Other than that, I want to bring up Modern Warfare 3 and Quake Live. Specifically, in any Call of Duty, my favorite mode is Kill Confirm. In Quake Live, my favorite mode was Harvester. They're very similar, right? You kill the guy, but it's a points-based thing, and you got to go get the thing to get the points.
Right.
In Quake Live, not only did you have to get the thing, but you had to take it to a certain, right?
Yeah.
I really loved it, man. I think my favorite thing about it is that, especially with Quake Live, one, Quake Live ran in browser, right?
That's right. That's right.
So even your friends that had the worst fucking PC in the world,
If they got good internet, they're fine.
they could play Quake Live with you, right?
Yeah.
I think that was really cool. What I like about Kill Confirm and what I like about Harvester is that I think oftentimes with games like that, I'll have a friend who wants to play, but is intimidated. Doesn't feel comfortable with first-person shooters, especially online.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good way of bringing new people into the game.
Right.
Because even if they're terrible at aiming or whatever, you can just be like, hey, look, dude, you just go pick that thing up. You know, and we'll take care of you. That's all you gotta do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Like, I know it sounds funny, right? But like, it's awesome because you can include other people in something that you're interested in.
Sure. And I think that, like, at the end of the day, like, as far as, like, especially when we're talking about, like, a team-based thing, like, everybody wants to feel like they're contributing, right? And I think that's a good way to do it.
Right. It's mercy before mercy, right? Like, it's basically that. And yeah, Kill Confirm, just, I don't know, really fun. Obviously, Quake versus Call of Duty, they're very, very different games. But in that way, I find them similar, and I think that that's something more like shooters could use more of.
Yeah.
Because, right now, if you don't want to play Overwatch, what really else is there that you can help just bring in somebody who's not great into these games,
Yeah.
Kill Confirm, that's really about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But speaking of shooters, so the next thing I had on my list was Titanfall, well, specifically Titanfall 2. And
for Titanfall.
Yeah, man, dude. So listen, like there are people who play that game with Titans turned off, and I don't fucking understand it because that shit is so dope.
And I actually played Titanfall 2, the campaign all the way through, and actually some multiplayer.
Yeah. Man, like when those Titans drop in, oh, it's cool every single fucking time.
It's pretty cool.
Every time. And like that game it has so many different like ways to like it just has so many different like moments in multiplayer where it's like so many oh shit moments, and like for example, I saw this there's two players who were in separate Titans who were fighting each other, and like one of them forced the other to eject. He had the guy on the ground and he stomped on his Titan and made the dude eject, and then like as the dude ejected, he like aimed his gun at him and just like shot him, and it was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen. But it's also really cool because like it's in the way that like with like Kill Confirmed or what was the other one, Harvester, and that way like there are like even if you're like garbage at Titanfall, there are other different little ways that you can contribute, right? Like if you can't hang like fighting against like the other players, there are NPCs that also need to be dealt with too, right? And so that can also like it doesn't naturally it doesn't advance you toward victory as fast as killing another player, but you're still moving the meter in some way.
Right.
But even still, like just the moment-to-moment gameplay with the Titans, like jumping on someone else's Titan and sabotaging it, or like having that moment where like you guys are just outnumbered and you're getting your asses kicked, and then like your friend's Titan just like comes around the corner and starts laying waste to everybody. It's like that shit is cool like every time. The game is,
and I did not give that game enough time. The multiplayer, I should say, I did not give enough time, but I liked what I played.
Yeah, and I kind of want to use that to segue into Apex, because we did talk about Apex a little bit earlier. but like Apex just does so many cool things. It's like and like I think like the one I want to call out like firstly is like the nonverbal communication aspect of that game is just like there are lots of other games have had like a system in place where you could ping like certain things, but
Right.
like it was always for the most part it had been relegated to pointing out that there are other enemies or what have you, but being able to call out like different areas or call out like equipment and stuff like that, and like being able like the team like having like good team composition in that game is just like really satisfying. Um, and that game just feels it's like it feels good in the way that Titanfall felt good. And it felt like it's
As it should.
yeah. I mean, obviously, but like it's
It's
like
got
in
it's got fucking Call of Duty alum working on it, you know.
yeah, and it's like it's fast and fluid the way that Titanfall is.
Yeah.
Like the gunplay feels good, and
Yeah.
like having a good team that game feels really good. Um,
I've never actually played it. I watched you play it when it
yeah,
first came
and I
out.
think that like
But
especially considering the fact that it's free, like if you're okay with giving up some of your time to check it out,
yeah.
I think and everybody should honestly give it give it a few matches because it is a really really fun game. And I think that one of the things that I think battle royales are intimidating to people only in that nobody likes being killed in a game, especially early on, and then having to sit the rest of the game out. Um,
Well, I also think like, you know, just statistically speaking, your chances of winning are pretty slim.
right,
You know,
right,
uh, you know what I mean?
yeah. And to date, I have won exactly one match of Apex Legends.
Yeah,
But dude, when you get the MVP and then your fucking character's on a banner in the next match, looks pretty fucking cool.
that
Um,
is a cool thing to do.
yeah, so it's a really cool game, and I think and especially like I said, it's free, and it's I think that the battle pass stuff is kind of you know not great, but like overall like on a
But
like
I mean, you didn't pay for anything, so
yeah,
you know,
um, you know
throw them some shekels.
yeah. So but at the same time, I'm not saying that the battle pass conceptually isn't great. I'm saying what you get for those shekels maybe isn't great, but that's subjective, right? But overall, the game is solid and it's fun, and I should put more time into it because it's actually very cool.
Okay, well, see now you got me confused here because I've got a battle royale I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I got a shooter I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which way to go. I'm gonna go with the shooter
Okay.
and say Killing Floor 2.
Oh man, that's on my list
Uh,
too. Hell yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say Left 4 Dead. I have a lot of love for Left 4 Dead, both 1 and 2,
Yeah.
and I still do, and I can still have fun with Left 4 Dead. But I do feel like Killing Floor has surpassed it
Yeah.
in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I think about the way that Horde mode works by design, there are a few different ways, right? There's the Left 4 Dead way, which also is the Vermintide way,
Yeah.
where you're going through a somewhat linear level, right?
Yeah.
With checkpoints in between. There's the Call of Duty Zombies way, where you start at a point in an environment, and as waves go on, that environment expands and expands and expands.
Right.
Right. And then there's the Killing Floor way, and what really makes Killing Floor the one for me is the way that you experience the level, in that the entire level is open to you from the get go. But your vending machine, where you upgrade and get ammo between waves, moves between
Yeah.
waves, which that is your encouragement to explore your environment.
Right.
And I think that's just a much more interesting way to do it. Uh, it's a much more free, expressive way to do it, right?
Sure.
Because like maybe I don't need to go to that thing yet,
Yeah.
and that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And
But
I think that like with like when we're like thinking about Left 4 Dead versus Killing Floor, I think that like in either experience you're trading one thing for another. Like for example, like I think that with with Left 4 Dead, you get the character personalities and you get some sort of like linear kind of narrative there.
A little bit, yeah.
And I think that's especially apparent in Left 4 Dead 2. Like they have like a more linear, like clear cut narrative with that game.
Right.
And that's cool. And like and also you get those characters' personalities, which I find really entertaining. But with Killing Floor, what you get in exchange for those is you get like with Left 4 Dead, everybody's capabilities are the exact same. Everybody does the exact same thing,
Yeah.
and having different what do they call them? Classes. Well, they call them
Yeah.
perks, but like
Yeah. Perks.
having different classes in Killing Floor, like it makes it so that like your team composition is always gonna your team composition is always changing. Like this time you might have someone with a flamethrower. Next time you might have someone with a rocket launcher.
Right. Right. Right.
And so like that stuff is
Well,
like
not to mention, it was shortly after the console version of the game came out that they updated it to have the dual perk system,
yeah
which I think is really genius, right? I played SWAT mostly, and SWAT used a lot of SMG type weapons.
yeah
Uh, and Medic at the time, I don't remember what they called that class. Maybe they call it Medic. I don't fucking know.
yeah
Had like an SMG type weapon, right?
right
After dual perk, you would then get the benefits if you were playing SWAT and using a different perk's SMG.
yeah
Because why wouldn't you?
sure
You know?
yeah
And in that way, you could make these classes that weren't like pre-existing classes, almost like a build, but not really. You know? And that was really cool. But to your point, I like the style, and just thematically, I like Left 4 Dead much more than Killing
Sure.
Floor. I think Killing Floor feels like a game I would have loved in middle school. You
Sure.
know,
Well, like I think Killing Floor is like very explicitly silly.
right? But I think that the gameplay of Killing Floor is just that much better,
Sure.
as it should be. It's a much newer game than Left 4 Dead. You
Yeah.
know, it's like comparing fucking Odyssey to Mario 1.
Right.
Like but they're both great.
Yeah. I have on here Battlefield 3. So I've played. So I think the Battlefield games that I've played are both Bad Companies. And
Evolution.
yeah, and then I played 3 and 4. But Battlefield 3 was just like I think like the sweet spot in that franchise for me. And like granted, I haven't played Battlefield 1 or Battlefield 5 or those, but like
No Hardline.
no, I just kind of watched you play Hardline and that was enough for me. No, actually I played the multiplayer beta for Hardline. So, but the thing about Battlefield that was always so impressive to me was the level of scale of those matches. Like having like these huge open maps and then like having like all these vehicles going all over the place, like tanks and jets and helicopters and like trying to like go to an objective and like fighting my way there and like taking cover behind like a tank as it's advancing. Like that stuff was like really thrilling to me.
Yeah.
And then of course there's the Levolution, which the people who made Red Faction would call that Geomod, but that's neither here nor there. But it was.
I feel like it looked and felt a lot nicer than Red Faction, and I love Red Faction.
Well, Red Faction
but...
Guerrilla does it better than Battlefield 3, but
Red Faction does it like much more fun.
Yeah,
but you can believe Battlefield, at
yeah.
least to an extent. There's a bit more reality there.
But like the idea of someone is camping in this building, well, let's get a tank over here and like blow that building up so he can stop camp, so like that we can kill that sniper and stuff. And it's just like it's like the level of scale, and it just is like really It's really awesome. And like the guns really feel good in that game, and like it's really easy to kind of like identify like what your favorite gun is, just because they all feel so distinct, and they all feel like, granted, I don't know shit about guns, but I know how I imagine guns feel, and how like uh and there's like a weightiness that you expect after a certain point, and
Yeah.
they all have that sense of impact to them, right? And and the matches just seem so balanced, um they just feel like, if you have, if both teams have like have the same number of players, both teams really do have like an equal chance of winning, regardless of where those two teams start on the map. And it just feels really good to be in those matches. And also, um, the that game has never. I don't think I've ever seen a game that had more satisfying melee kills, as far as first-person shooters are concerned. Because like,
Glory kills.
oh sure, well, I don't know if glory kills exist in the multiplayer, but um,
Sure.
but man, that would how embarrassing would that be to like have to like watch yourself get like fucking dismembered like that. But no, like you sneaking up on a sniper, and then like just turning him over and like stabbing him in the throat is neat.
Yeah.
It's really cool and stuff like that, right? I will give Battlefield 4 props for having like a kind of a reversal system on that, where like if someone comes at you from the front and they try to stab you, like if you push the
You
button
can
up,
tech it.
you actually you can like you grab their hand and then you spring it around and make
Yeah.
them stab themselves, and that's really cool, because like one of my favorite things about like multiplayer games, especially first person shooters, and this also like informs, usually at the time anyway, would inform my gamer tag choice, was imagining doing something to someone else on in that game and having them yell your fucking gamer tag at the screen.
Sure.
And like one of those that's one of those things that I just imagine like someone just raging over, because just like you have to
That's
watch it
funny.
happen to you, and it's so fucking funny.
That's very funny.
Battlefield 3 is fucking great, and I guess I'm about to find out how great uh, Battlefront is, because it's basically, I think it's like the same
Awesome.
engine. Yeah, so it's got lasers in it, so
Yeah.
I'm into it.
Okay, so the best battle royale is Tetris 99.
Mm.
It's fan fucking tastic, and I dropped off of it pretty fast. Uh, I don't. This is gonna sound bad. I don't want to toot my own horn. All
Sure,
right,
sure, toot it, dude.
but it got boring after a while. I think the biggest problem with Tetris 99 is that, at least at the time, I know they've done a lot of updates to it, but I have not seen. But at least at the time, was that there was not enough to do outside of that,
Right. Like,
But that was very cool,
like, could you unlock stuff?
Not then.
Hmm.
I don't know about now, but not then. But I mean, nothing significant anyway.
Yeah.
Nothing that you would give a shit about unlocking.
Yeah.
But like, it's just such a neat idea, right? So battle royales come out and they start blowing up, and people are all about them, and they're like, okay, Eureka and Nintendo were like, hey, let's do this. Eureka, of all fucking companies, like
Yeah.
Fighting Lair.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, let's do this.
Yeah.
Which is fucking nuts. And the fact that I don't know that if the Tetris company came up with this idea, or if Eureka did, or if Nintendo did, but the fact that all three of them were on board and that it worked as well as it did,
Yeah.
is pretty awesome, man. And the fact that it's free, like it's free to just go do that. And when I first saw the trailer for it, I was like, okay, it's going to be 100 people, 99 people playing Tetris, throwing junk at each other.
Yeah.
And that's it. And like, no, that's not it. Like,
Yeah.
you can select how you're going about throwing your junk and who you're throwing it to. And that's really, really neat. And I thought for sure after that was so successful, that we would see battle royale in all sorts of genres.
Yeah.
And I know like they have made battle royales in other genres, but like none of them have seen that amount of success,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that there's a reason for
Yeah.
that because a lot of them are garbage.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just it's a fun time.
You know,
It's a fun time.
I hear a lot of people. I don't really hear it so much now because I don't feel like people talk about it the way that they did. But one of the things that I would often hear about battle royales is that like people like is like I'm tired of battle royales. Everything's a battle royale now, and
Yeah,
but like I never got to that point because I always felt that, and I still feel it. I still feel this way. Is that I feel like there's unexplored territory for battle royales that I just think that people haven't figured out yet.
yeah,
And I think that Tetris 99 is an example of someone finding a way to iterate on battle royales in an interesting and fun way, which is
and
what,
profitable way.
yeah.
You know.
So which is like, I think that because I think that when we think of battle royales, like naturally we think of shooters,
Mm-hmm.
because most of them are that, right? But when you find the one-off that is not that and is also well made, is just it's really, it's really refreshing. And I think that Tetris 99 is proof that there's stuff to do in the battle royale space that hasn't been done yet, and we should be
Yeah,
patient about that.
I think that that's a very good point. When we've brought up the fact, we just talked about several horde mode games. We've talked about the fact that horde mode has existed for fucking ever.
Yeah.
We didn't call it that, but that's what Galaga is.
Sure.
And if they'd stopped at those kinds of games, we wouldn't have any fucking Left 4 Dead or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely unexplored territory there.
Um. So, uh, I'm gonna bring up. I feel I would be remiss if I didn't bring this up. I'm gonna bring up Monster Hunter World, um, and specifically Monster Hunter World because I think that in a lot of different ways that it's yeah, I would say in a lot of different ways, Monster Hunter World is I think it's the most successful Monster Hunter because it's also the most accessible in the series. Like granted, there's some like stuff that's like not obfuscated very well, but like overall, like it's a great entry point for new players. But I like the way that it handles multiplayer in that. So in previous games, like if you wanted to go into a hunt with a group, then you gotta have to hang out in the lobby and wait for some people to show up. And they'd have to join that specific lobby so that they could go on that hunt with you. The inclusion of the SOS flare is just so fucking good.
Is that not in? What is the one that they remade on Switch?
I didn't play that one, so I can't say. But
Okay. So I'm pretty sure that has it. I could be wrong.
but the SOS flare is just such a welcome addition to that series because like you get into a hunt and then you realize well shit, this isn't going the way that I want it to that I wanted it to go. I need some help. And like being able to call for help and like having people not have to specifically be in your lobby but just can
Yeah.
just like go into your game for that hunt is just like it's a huge change and it makes the game feel more dynamic and in a lot of ways makes different hunts more playable, especially for people like me who don't have like I don't really feel like I feel like I at least at one point I was pretty decent at Monster Hunter, but I didn't really feel like I had like the coordination to be like great at Monster Hunter because it's just like
Yeah.
there's just so much shit going on with that game. But being able to get help when you feel like you need it, or like guys also being able to go and help people when you just feel like when you just feel like playing with someone else and none of your friends play Monster Hunter. It makes a really huge difference. And likewise, like I think that also the ways in which you can support your teammates with like you can lay down like a healing spray to like heal everybody in the radius or like lay down stuff to like increase their attack power and stuff like that. And it's just a really really like awesome like fun game to
Yeah.
play with like other people. And like and I can definitely see why people would be intimidated or turned off by previous games in the series, because like those games don't explain themselves very well, like at all, and they don't explain so much how to play with other people or how to coordinate with other people. And I think that this game does a much better job of doing that.
Yeah.
um and I have over 1,000 hours in that game. um and it's all and that most of that is multiplayer. um and it's also just like it's just also just a very well made game. Uh,
Sure.
there are some things that that quote unquote Monster Hunter clones do better than Monster Hunter, but I think as a whole, Monster Hunter is gonna probably for the foreseeable future be my favorite of that type of game.
Yeah.
Um,
I never played Dauntless, but I know that was taken off for a while.
yeah.
Obviously not to the extent of Monster Hunter,
So
but
like the one thing I didn't like about Dauntless, and because I think that like to play Dauntless, like that's actually like it's a pretty well made game. um Especially like as far as free to play Monster Hunter clones go, it's a pretty well made game. The one thing that Dauntless doesn't have that Monster Hunter does is a sense of impact, both when you're hitting the monster and when the monster is hitting you. It just doesn't feel like you don't feel like you're hitting anything, and I feel like that's a huge deal with games like that.
yeah,
Especially when you have giant hammers and enormous swords, like you want to feel like that weapon is hitting something. And I just feel
sure.
like Dauntless doesn't really have that. And also, it's got that whole free to play game thing where like they bombard you with a bunch of shit all over your screen about stuff you need to buy, and it's just
Oh, do they? I didn't know that.
at the time. Like granted, like my memory of the game is like removed by like a year, but
Yeah.
that's what I remember.
Well, I've got Diablo 3 on here, and like Diablo 3 is such a weird fucking game. Like, it's changed so much. And I've gone on record many times saying I like Diablo 3 at launch better than I like it now,
Hmm.
which I know most people like it better now. I just feel like the game is much easier than it used to be, and Diablo in nature is like by nature is already an easy game. Do we really need to make it easier?
Sure.
Uh, but like, I had a lot of fun So at launch, I played Diablo 3 on PC with Sarah and with Patrick, who you know,
Yeah.
and we played locally. I think once or twice as well. Locally, like each with our own laptop at the
Yeah.
same table.
Yeah.
But and then a couple years ago, a year or two ago, I played the PS4 version again with some coworkers, and like it's just you know it's one of those games where you can kind of just shut your brain off
Yeah. Absolutely.
and keep your hands busy and just hang out and talk with friends.
Sure. It's a good chat room.
And like I don't know what that really says about the game itself, but like I do like it.
Sure.
I do like it quite a bit. It's up there. It's up there for me for sure. I guess I could say the same thing about Borderlands 2, which is very funny considering how poorly I speak of that franchise as a whole. But I'm not gonna lie, playing Borderlands 2 with friends from work, like I had a good time. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't a bad time. Um, yeah, I think like there's definitely something to games like that. Like
Yeah.
I've got a couple of buddies at work who are getting ready to pick up Minecraft Dungeons, and like I don't think that game has a very long like hook to it. There's no real loop to it. I don't believe. I think you just go through it once. I'm not
And
positive.
I think like it's like 5 or 10 hours or something like that.
Yeah, I've heard it's pretty short. But like, so what? I'm cool with that.
Sure. Especially, I mean, right now your time's at a premium, so
Yeah.
um, so
And
I
there are dungeon like action dungeon crawlers like that. that I like better, that I do think are better than Diablo 3. But as far as playing them online,
Yeah.
I think Diablo 3 is where it's at.
Um, I have a couple more on here. Um, and so I'm gonna say the next one I'm gonna mention is Red Dead Online. Um, that game came a long way since it's uh when it first like came out. Um,
Came a long way, Arthur.
yeah, come stay with me, Arthur. Uh, Arthur. And anyway, so I mean, we talk about like in both of the this game and my last game are kind of this, and there are online games that are really just they're at a certain point they become really really fun chat rooms. Uh, and I think that like Red Dead Online is like it is kind of that, but like it's like it can be a very chill experience where like you're just riding horses with your friends
Yeah.
and like or like riding horses with your friends hunting together and like just shooting the shit and it's fun. um and like even like or like getting your posse together and like going after like some bad dude and like getting in a gunfight with like three of your friends, like it's a really fun experience, like especially when like you're talking to each other and like you see like your friend like come around the other side or like come from like the top of like a building and it's really neat, and I think that I sometimes think that when I see Rockstar's like slavish devotion to realism as far as movement is concerned, sometimes I feel like they forget they're making video games. Um, but like I think that like that aside, like I think that it's a really good time.
Yeah.
I think that it's a really fun way to like hang out with your friends, like especially because like the map is so big, and like you're riding your horses from like one place to another, and like during that ride you're just just hanging out, talking with your friends, talking about whatever, um, and that's a really it's really neat, and I'm I think that I think that Rockstar did some really I think they did some really silly things as far as how they monetize that game. Um, but the actual core mechanic of that game and like the core loop or like whatever you decide that loop is really cool. Um, and also I don't know, and I think there might be some bias there because of how much I enjoy westerns, so there might be some of that in there too. Um, and I guess like go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I guess like now that I'm like since I'm talking about like fun chat rooms, I'm going to end it on the Division 2. Cuz that's another game that is like that at some point becomes that. But like it's also like it is that like when you're on your way to like doing something, and then like once the firefight pops off, then it's just like it's chaotic and fun, and like everybody feels like this special ops tactical badass because you're flanking and like doing your gadgets and like
Sure.
and it's and like and these gadgets are so fucking ridiculous. Like you have your like your rolly bomb and
Yeah,
like
I remember like the trailer for the first division when they showed that. Like the reveal trailer, I believe, showed that,
yeah.
and I thought that was so cool, and I was so excited for the division, and I never got into either one.
Yeah, and initially, I remember I talked to you about like my problems with the Division 1 as far as the whole like lag with gunplay being concerned. But like they've addressed that in this game. Um and it's a really fun game to like play with a group of friends, especially like when you have like one person who has the ballistic shield and you guys like line up behind him and like you're shooting over his shoulder like while he's like blocking all the bullets. And it's shit like that that's like really really fun. um the like I can't speak for like the mindset of the community. Like I can't speak to how like they compared to like something as awesome as the Splatoon community because I don't really talk to most of the people. But like I think there are few online multiplayer experiences that are as tense and rewarding as going into the dark zone on the Division.
Mm.
So for if you guys don't know what the dark zone is, it's basically an area on the map that is where Division agents can go and do whatever they want, as far as they can kill other Division agents, while also killing like quote unquote bad guys. And you're getting rare high level loot, and you from this contaminated area, and the goal is to get as much loot as you can and have it extracted. Of course, while you're extracting your loot, people can kill you and steal your loot. So there's like a tension
And
of
turn on you.
yeah, or like people in your group can turn on you and steal everything from themselves. And so like there is definitely like a tension there that kind of never lets up, because like at any
standoff going.
yeah, there was a point where I was in the dark zone, like by myself, which was ill advised, and like I saw some people, like I was hiding because I saw some people at the extraction point, and I was like, well, I don't want to go to the extraction point because then they're gonna light me up and take all my shit. And so I remember like hiding like close by, but like I could still see the extraction point, so I could see what's going on. So like I'm gonna hang out until they leave, and I'm gonna get my stuff and put it on the thing, and hopefully nobody shows up when I shoot this flare off, right? And then like I just like I watched the helicopter show up, and then they're all standing there, and then one of their guns goes off, and then all of a sudden like all three people are shooting at each other, and like then like there's one guy who's barely alive, and he just takes all this stuff, and it's like really funny watching that unfold. But it's a really cool game, if not a little if not a little basic in some ways, but it's a really fun and really neat it's a really neat shooter, especially when it comes to like always online multiplayer shooters. I think it's a really, really fun time, especially if you can get like a group of people together.
Yeah.
It's a really good time.
I have one last one I want to bring up that you actually reminded me of when you were talking about Red Dead 2, which is funny to me because that game is Uno for Xbox 360.
Yeah.
But like you talking about, just talking with people, like I don't know, I think most people who had a 360 and bought Uno probably look back on it pretty fondly.
Yeah.
Fuck, I don't know how long ago that was, but like my daughter was in diapers.
It had to be like 05 maybe,
and
right?
I still talk to people I met on Uno on Xbox 360.
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said for that, because I've bought every console version of Uno since then, and none of them have been as good for whatever reason.
You're still chasing
fucking Uno.
You're still chasing that. You're still chasing that high.
Yeah, but like it's just so good, and you just meet garbage people, of course, but for the most part, it's an Uno game. It's not fucking Call of Duty or Mortal Kombat or whatever. Like people are there to chill and play some Uno, you know. And like, what's not to love about that?
Yeah, I mean, Uno's a fun game, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have any more games, Tom?
No, that's it. I hate all other multiplayer games.
Yeah. So if the game wasn't on either of our lists, we hate them. And since Shanae isn't here to provide a list of her own, that basically implies that she hates all online multiplayer games. So that's official. That's canon. Anyway, thanks again for listening, guys. This has been a very fun conversation. As always, you guys can check us out on our socials, primarily the Instagram. Let Tom know what you like and what you don't like on there. Also, just let him know how good he's doing. Just do that. Just tell Tom that everything he posts is magic.
I'm gonna block you like Seth Rogen.
Sure. Also, if you're in the market for some custom Fight Sticks, check out Jason's Customs.
Oh yeah, good job.
And also, we will see you guys next time. As always, my name is Ryan Robinson. This here's Tom Shelby.
Bye.
Later.